In order to use LVM on an already installed system, we actually have to go through and create our physical volumes, volumes groups, and logical volumes. It's really easy, and the tools are very easy to understand, and they're very similar in each step of the way. So let's actually go right in and start creating our various components so we can set up an LVM system on an already installed Linux box. Now here on our Linux machine, we have some partitions on hard drives already set up that we're going to use as physical volumes. If we type lsblk, we'll see that we have this SDB, C, and D. These are all actually already set up partitions. They're 10 gigabytes in size, but they are the LVM Linux type. And so that's what we're going to use to create our physical volumes. Now, if we type PV display, we'll see there's nothing here. We don't have any physical volumes defined yet. So we're going to use PV create, and we're going to put our various devices that we're going to use. Now this could be a RAID device, but in our case it's going to be individual partitions on a hard drive. So we're going to say dev SDB1, and we can put them all in one line. So dev SDC1 and dev SDD1. Press enter. So those are created. Now if we type PV display, we're going to see that we have these 3 physical volumes set up, and we have UUIDs for each of them. So they are in our list of physical volumes that we can use to create a volume group. But if we type VG display, you'll see that we don't have any volume groups yet. We have our physical volumes set up, so LVM knows about them, but we need to put them in that data bucket. We need to put them in a VG, or in a volume group. And to do that, we're going to say VG create, and then we need to name our volume group. So our volume group has to have a name. We have to name the bucket, so to speak. So let's just call it data chunk. All right, so our volume group is going to be data chunk, and now we need to tell it what physical volumes do we want to add to that volume group. Well, we're going to say dev SDB1, dev SDC1, and dev SDD1. So those are our physical volumes that have been defined up here, and now we're going to use those physical volumes to create this data chunk volume group. So we'll press enter. It says it's been created. Now we can type VG display, and it will show us we have one volume group, and it's called data chunk. All right, and it's about 30 gigabytes in size. We use 3 10 gigabyte drives, but there's a little overhead, so it's 29.99. But it's here, so we have 30 gigs of storage in this volume group now that we can carve out an individual drive or logical volume that we can use to create a file system. So let's say we want a 25 gigabyte logical volume. That's going to actually take a little bit from all 3 drives, right? So it's going to use all those drives. Not completely. There's still going to be some room left in our volume group, but we're going to make a 25 gigabyte chunk. Now the format for creating a logical volume is a little bit different, but it still uses a similarly named program. We're going to say LV create. We can actually say LV display to see, nothing up my sleeve. There's no current logical volume. So LV create, and now we need to name it. But here we say dash dash name, and let's name this one. Let's see, our volume group is data chunk. Let's call this one big slice. And now we need to tell it the size. So I want the size to be 25 capital G for gigabytes. And now we need to tell it where to take it from. Well, obviously we only have the one volume group, but we still need to tell it what volume group to create this from. And so we're going to say data chunk, because that's the name of our volume group. So we press enter. And now it says the logical volume big slice has been created. So let's look at LV display to get the details about big slice, which is actually like our hard drive now that we're going to use on our system. So its logical volume, its path is dev data chunk big slice. Okay, so instead of like dev SDA, it's dev data chunk big slice. All right, and the LV size, sure enough, is 25 gigs. Now, if we look back at our VG display, now we're going to see we have the 30 gigabyte size. However, allocated is 25 gigabytes, so there's 4.99 free. So we can see we've made that change. And now lastly, we could use that device, which is in dev data chunk. So this big slice, we can use that and create a file system on it. It may seem like we went fast through the creation process of all of those components, but honestly, as long as you know what the physical volume, volume group, and logical volumes are, the tools kind of make sense what you're doing, right? We're just making a data bucket, carving out a slice of that data bucket, and making a logical volume that we can then use as a hard drive on our system. It's really not difficult at all, and it gives us so much flexibility that LVM is an awesome way to make your little system have like a storage area network in itself. It's just so cool. I hope this has been informative for you, and I'd like to thank you for viewing.